Hey there, welcome back to Climate Fridays. Ketchy Nelly is my name, and this is the spot where we get excited about environmental activism, listen to great music, and have great conversations. Before we start, I'd like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation, where I am here in Melbourne. But on behalf of Climate Fridays, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands in which we work and live, and acknowledge their continuing connection to land, water and culture. We pay our respects to elders past, present and future, and acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded, and this always was and always will be Aboriginal land. I'm so excited to be back. We have huge news happening today and amazing artists and school striker for climate people to talk to. So let's kick things off. Joining me right now is William Crighton. He's in his car. He's going to bless us with some great music. This is the first single that we heard of his this year in the lead up to his third studio album coming out, I'm pretty sure. Hopefully. Yes. Phew.
Can be.
Sure. I'm hoping that you're playing Your Country. Is that right? Is that a right guess, or am I leaving
Happy
that?
to. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll play that one. Sure.
Oh my gosh, sorry.
How
I'm
are
telling
you,
you what to
Ketchy?
do.
Good to see
I'm
you.
good. So good to see you too.
G'day, everybody.
So glad to have you here on the show. And also something that we do ask everybody that's kind of new to the show or haven't spoken to me in a while. How did you first get involved with environmental activism, and what does that mean to you?
Well, I've been, I would say, an environmentalist since I was a kid, I hung around a lot of people. We're always out in the bush and always fishing and spending a lot of time in the bush. So the bush was always part of me, and learning how to look after it and not litter and all that thing as a kid was ingrained in me, and I guess it stayed with me all the way through. I didn't really get active in activism until probably about 10 or 12 years ago, when Jules and I started going up to the blockades around the Northern Rivers area. We had some good friends up there who were telling us about what was happening with the CSG and whatnot. So we were up there whenever we could be, and sort of been active ever since.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, I'm going to let you play us a beautiful song to kick off things for Climate Fridays. So, yeah,
Right.
Thank you so much.
No worries. This is Your Country. I don't understand why they're still clearing the land, why they're poisoning the water now. I don't understand why our elected leaders become bottom feeders to the corporate man. I don't understand. Hey, this is your country. Hey, 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 this is your country. I won't accept a law that don't protect my kids from those who think they're above us. I will persist to resist the temptation that exists by and into what keeps us separated. Hey, this is your country. Hey, 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 this is my country. Hey, this is your country. No, I don't understand why they're still clearing the land, why they're poisoning the water now. I don't understand why our elected leaders become bottom feeders to the corporate man. I don't understand. Hey, this is your country. Hey, 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 this is my country. Hey, this is your country. Hey, 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 this is my country. Hey, hey.
Wow. Oh my God. William Crichton, thank you so much for that. What a powerful song. Absolutely enjoyed that. You also recorded the original recording with William Barton as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. Will and I have been friends for a few years now, and first hit it off when we met in Parliament House, and you know, we have a great relationship and a great musical relationship, and we're always talking about country, and we get out whenever we're together. We go up to the Wattigans and hang out for a while. You know, he's a very dear man.
Yeah. Really beautiful lyrics that kind of tie into the people that I'm about to bring up, speaking about how the government is selling off land and deciding to go with corporate ideologies instead of ones that will ensure a stronger and better nation, especially around the environment. And I'm joined by Seed Mob's director, Millie Telford. So great to have you here with us today as well.
Thanks so much for having me. It's awesome to be on the show again.
We've got some big news that you're about to drop on us, but before we get there, we'll also invite Amelia Duggan, who is our school striker for climate. So beautiful to have you here with us as well, Amelia.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited for the show.
Now, William Crighton's track, Your Country, really brought up a few issues that tie into what Seed Mob is all about, talking about the government selling off land, poisoning water, poisoning the land. Seed Mob came together in 2014 with the Australian Youth Climate Coalition. And I was wondering, Millie, if you could tell us what's happening or what's been announced this week.
Yeah, so super exciting. Just this week, we shared with the world that Seed are going to be branching off independent from the AYCC and becoming our own Indigenous youth-led environmental organisation, which will be the first of its kind in the country, which is awesome. And it was always a dream that we had, I guess, when we first set up Seed, like in the early days. But I mean, I know for myself, I was like fresh out of high school, had no idea what I was doing in a way, but that's sort of the best way to act sometimes, is to be able to just, give everything your best shot, wing it, see how it goes, learn from your mistakes, all of that. And, it's been an incredible journey that we've been on, and there's no way that we'd be where we are today if it wasn't for all of the amazing Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander young people all across the country who've built the movement that is Seed Mob today. And so, for us, we truly believe that First Nations organisations need First Nations leadership, and there is no climate justice without First Nations justice. So for us, this seems like a really, a next step that makes a lot of sense, but also something that we are getting a lot of energy from and are inspired by so many Indigenous communities around the world who, I guess when we look to those places, that's where we get hope and inspiration to know that, this is going to be the right step for us and bring on 2021.
Yes, it's so exciting. And as well as that, you've got people can donate, because you're aiming to raise $500,000 before the end of the year, and people can jump on your website, seedmob.org.au, and the donation option is right there, like in the middle as well, with your beautiful video that you brought out as well across social media this week. It really touched me. One of the really stark images that I still think about is talking about the gas, tapping into the gas, and this image of like chimneys on fire with the gas that's coming out, and First Nations people talking about how the pain of the country is what they physically feel as well.
Yeah, so that part of the video, so if people head to seedmob.org.au/climate justice fund, and just scroll down after you donate and watch the video, that clip is actually of Candy Mossett from the Indigenous Environmental Network in the US. She was one of the leading activists on the front lines of like the Standing Rock fight that a lot of people would be familiar with, fighting the Dakota Access Pipeline. And, Candy, we first connected with Candy back in 2009, which is crazy. And, at that time, the climate movement looked very different and felt very different. And, I think it's been amazing to have someone like Candy who's seen Seed grow so much over the years, where, she went to one of the first events that, there was like so many young people from across the country there, but no Indigenous young people. And then when we brought her to Australia in 2017, we had over 200 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people from across the country. And Candy was like, yes, this is where it's at. Like, we need more of this shit. And we actually took Candy with us to the Northern Territory to meet communities on the front lines of gas fracking up there. And I think the thing, that was so powerful that it breaks your heart at the same time is that Candy was able to speak to people and say, look, like, you've got these proposals coming for massive gas projects on your country. But, back home where I come from, we've already had those proposals and they're already in production phase and we've lost our country. And, it's at a point where, some places just can't be repaired. And, it's incredibly heartbreaking. And so really, Candy's message was like, stay strong and like, say no to these projects, because no amount of money can buy back, what our country is to us and our land and our connection to our land. And so, yeah, she's definitely one of my biggest role models ever. But she's also been someone that has given us a lot of strength in the fight against fracking.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you as well as a follow-up, like, what's the change that you've seen since the inception of Seed to where you are now and being an independent organisation?
Yeah, I mean, we've just seen so many more young people get involved and join our movement. Like, I remember when we launched as, Seed Mob in 2014, when we had our own name, logo, identity, that our movement just grew exponentially because young mob across the country felt such a strong sense of belonging in a space that wasn't just, a tokenistic add-on to an existing organization. And even though we are stepping out and becoming independent, like, we have, always made sure that we've had spaces within the work that we've done to, support young people to come together and have those spaces that are led by Indigenous people for Indigenous people. But I think, now we can recruit a fully First Nations board and have, that leadership and governance at all levels of what we do, and show that not only are our communities on the front lines of climate change impacts and fossil fuel extraction, but we're leading the solutions and, we hold the knowledge and we're not waiting to be given the power. We're taking the power and stepping into it and just saying, it's time to follow us, like, get behind us and support us. So there's been a lot of changes like over the years, but I think what I would also want to highlight is that in some ways this, or in a lot of ways, this isn't anything new in terms of our people protecting country. We are carrying on a legacy that our old people and our ancestors have passed down through the generations in terms of our right and our responsibility to care for our land, our mother, and as we always say, like, if we care for the land, like, the land will care for us, and if we don't, then we'll hear about it. And I think that's what we're facing right now in terms of climate. But our communities are not the ones that have caused this issue, and yet we're facing the most severe consequences. And so that's where we need to fight for not only climate action but climate justice, and support communities that are first and most impacted.
Yeah, so right in that. And also, I guess something that is needed to fight is the mentality around environmentalism and the impact that we're leaving on this nation. And a group that's been really strong at doing that, again, is coming from the youth allyship with School Striker for Climate. Amelia Duggan, who joins us, so excited to have you here. Like, what has it been like for you as a young environmental activist, as somebody who's helped change the conversation or bring forward the conversation in the last at least the last 2 years? It's really been groundbreaking work.
Definitely. Like, I feel like from being involved, like, you kind of learn a lot more. Like, you learn from like organizations like Seed Mom and AYCC actually, like, how important it is to stand up in like this whole big issue of climate justice, and also, like, I've been able to like use a platform as being an organizer to help others like spread this message, especially people on the front lines. As like, although I'm from a capital city, I don't really face the issues as much, but like, you bring forward those voices that are really affected by the issue, and really actually show big people like companies, leaders of our country, go like, we need to stand up, we need to not stay quiet, and we need to actually really act and use our position to our advantage.
Yeah. Do you see yourself as somebody that's helped, like with School Striker for Climate, help change or bring up the conversation more, especially with the generations that have come before you?
I feel like it's become like much more kind of accepted per se. Like it has been talked about like a lot with generations older than myself. But I feel like definitely with my generation, through being an organizer, you can see this kind of conversation being a lot more kind of mainstream per se. Like I've been able to have as a conversation as an organizer, for example, with my school, talking about how important we should like kind of switch on. For example, we now have solar panels at my school and a beehive because we realized actually maybe we should try to change the situation, and having a conversation with like schools, my parents and like friends and family, and then having a conversation, I feel like has really shaped kind of like what our country is like now.
What's your hope for the future when you think forward to like the newer generations that will come through after you? But what would you like to see when you're like voting and with the change in the, I guess, like atmosphere around Parliament as well?
I feel like I really would love to see like a lot more kind of young people, even my age, and like a little bit older, a little bit younger, really seeing how important it is. Like going, yes, the climate crisis is very important and there's many important issues, but going, we should put this at the top of our priorities as well as others, because if you don't have an environment, where's the world going to be in like 20 years?
Yeah.
I really would love to see like kind of people going like putting this steps forward. For example, even if there's no government action, unfortunately we're not experiencing, but people putting pressure on their businesses, their workplace, going like, let's do something, let's change the makeup of this country.
Yeah. And William, that's something that you talk about or you write about in the song that you just played for us. Like, what have you seen through touring as well? Because you would have traveled across the nation. Like, how does it feel for you being an artist, but also like someone who gets to see, I guess, a lot of the country that maybe not everyone gets to see through touring?
Well, people are definitely becoming more aware of what's going on, that's for sure. I think knowing our Australian history and knowing exactly how we come to be is an important thing, to understand the lies that we've been told as a nation, and then to unpick them is a necessary path forward in any sort of climate justice or any sort of environmental work that's going to work and going to resonate with people who potentially have drawn a line in the sand and said, well, economic security is on this side and climate is over here, and I think that speaks. A lot of Australians still believe that that's the case. And for me, I think the most powerful thing that changed my life was, learning more from the uncles and whatnot, being invited out and learning and learning about the connection with this country that everybody can have. Everybody can feel so connected with this country. And I think that the way that we are able to get rid of Santos and get rid of these corporations that are planning on profiting from the future, we need to claim our future. And the way to do that is to connect as many people as we can with country. So no matter where you're from, because this country speaks to everybody. And I think that Seed Mob is a fantastic thing to start that process, or at least continue on that process and grow it bigger. It's incredibly exciting, and it's great to be a part and here at this time, and so I feel good about that. There's always going to be that corporate pressure, and until we stop doing things that play into the corporations' hands, we're not going to win. We're not going to take the country, because we are all hypocrites in the sense that we all cash in on Mother Nature. We all have phones. We all live in a house. We all use power. But it's about where we're going to draw that line. And I think that Indigenous folk of this country are the people we need to be listening to, are the people who know a way out of this crisis that we're in, because they've been here and living with Mother and being a part of Mother in this country for, I'm not even going to impose a date on it. It's endless.
Yeah, that's so right. And one of the things that you brought up was really interesting, that we need to educate ourselves and also look into big businesses that allow us to have the comfort of energy within our homes. And that's definitely something that Seed Mob has been at the forefront with, especially with Origin Energy. And it's an interesting thing, like around this time, like with what's happening in the world and the way that we talk about fake news and stuff like that. Origin Energy is an energy company that purports to be green energy and really safe, but that's not the case, is it, Millie?
No, they really pride themselves on being about good energy. But they're one of the companies that are leading the leading the gas industry in the Northern Territory, to open up the NT, to frack for gas, and also, like, we know that they're looking for oil too, and that's just incredibly scary. Like, this is, we're living in a time where we have seen the impacts of these industries in other places, and they're getting banned, whether it's in other parts of the world or even other parts of the country. And so I think what's incredibly unfair is that, the Northern Territory and too often remote and regional Aboriginal, places with remote and regional Aboriginal communities are on the front lines of these issues. And so whether it's in the NT, whether it's in the Kimberley region, or whether it's in, Western central New South Wales, where Santos have just recently had their, gas project approved in Narrabri. We're seeing Gomeroi mob standing up, against that. We're seeing mob all across the country in solidarity with one another. But going back to your point on Origin and these, big corporations, like, they're totally in bed with our politicians, and there's no denying that. And I think it's time for us to be able to, really come together and stand up and I guess raise our voices in lots of different ways, whether it's getting out on the streets, on social media, but also, using our power as customers of these companies, using our money, using our time, like, whatever it is. There's so many powerful ways that we've seen throughout history, young people in particular, but people who are on the front lines of these issues, standing up against the big sort of people in power and winning. And I always say that, to young mob, when we talk about Seed leading the campaign targeting Origin, is that I can't wait for the day that we say that, young Black people across the country, together with traditional owners, took on one of the biggest energy companies in the country and won, because it's totally going to happen. Like, they're going to back away eventually. It doesn't, their plans for fracking the NT don't stack up environmentally, economically. It not only goes against their stance on climate change and sustainability, but it goes against their, their claims to respect Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. But even more so, they claim to, respect the UN rights of Indigenous people to free, prior and informed consent. And we've been working with traditional owners there for many years now. And it's not rocket science. Like, saying no means no. It's not fair that they're not taking that answer and pushing ahead with it anyway. So we're going to keep fighting. And if people are watching who haven't heard about this, like, head to nt.seedmob.org.au/pledge, and you can take action to target Origin and their plans for fracking the NT.
Yeah, there's great resources that you've provided. You've provided like a letter template for people who may not have done this before and don't know where to start when it comes to writing these things up. You've also got the opportunity for people to sign a petition as well as donate to help you guys fight this cause. For me, like, it really opened my eyes, luckily being a part of this amazing Climate Fridays where I get to learn every week from all the amazing people that we have here about Origin Energy. That's something that I never knew. And I think for a lot of people, we take what's said to us or what we see on the internet to be truth. Amelia, I wanted to ask you, this has been a unique, oh my gosh, I can't even talk anymore, unique year in that we've all been locked into our houses with this pandemic and you've had to jump online for your activism. How's that been like for you? I guess we always peg the youngest generation to be the most tech savvy. So I wanted to ask you about your online activism and re-educating people about what's going on around our nation.
Sure. Like, definitely, like, when we first came to this year, we all thought it'd be amazing and stuff. Going, like, we'd have all these great plans, but, like, literally with the pandemic, we really had to channel our inner tech wizards, tech geniuses. We've had to kind of, like, have our own kind of online rallies per se. Like, with our recent action, September 25th, against gas and Origin mainly, we've learned going, like, how can we still have such a big movement, but obviously making it safe for the pandemic. So we've learned going, like, using social media, as a lot of people use social media. For example, tagging your relatives, sending it out to your local MPs really is a way to kind of like connect others on a much broader scale without kind of like being in contact with one another. And one thing like I've really enjoyed is like, for example, connecting with like local MPs and local businesses through like sending them an email online and going, telling them about all this stuff, what these big corporations are doing, what many people are just like not even realizing is happening. Like my parents didn't even realize what I told them, going like, look, this is a big deal. We need to act now. And I feel like with the pandemic and going like online and doing digital stuff, we've really learned how to be adaptable and going, this is how we have to unfortunately act now, but how we can still keep the momentum and really push for climate justice even in a pandemic, as pandemic will happen for donkey's times because of us, just part of the human race, but the climate justice will not wait.
Yeah. Can I ask you, if just pretend for a minute that I'm a teenager, or maybe I'm just somebody that's new to activism. What is some advice that you could give to somebody that wants to get involved but is very new to this and is just learning things? Maybe this is the first time they've jumped onto Climate Fridays to see this discussion.
Sure, definitely. I'd say like check out like local social media pages. So for example, if you've heard of this kind of like company in the news, for example, like Origin, have a look at like their tagged posts with many kind of activism accounts tag them and stuff. And you can kind of do your own research through that. And then there's many organizations that would love help. And if you go through like kind of social media, and even if you don't have social media, just have a little Google, because Google, you can find YouTube videos, you can find resources, and you can really learn how to connect with other like-minded people without taking like too much of a toll on your own like body and stuff.
Yeah. Can I also ask, sorry, I've just had a mental blank because it was such a great answer. This is such an awesome conversation. I wanted to ask you, like, do you feel like being a part of this movement and meeting people and learning has given you a much stronger identity when it comes to your way of thinking and way of approaching activism?
Definitely. Like I feel like I've gone like and developed like a much more like broad-minded approach, because before going into it I was like, oh, climate change is bad, plastic, but like now being very involved, I've learned about like multiple issues that are kind of all linked, as like with activism, like for example, climate justice linked to First Nations justice, linked to Black Lives Matter, linked to social justice. Like everything is kind of interlinked, and you kind of develop a more holistic approach to life. And now, like I feel like as someone who's been heavily involved, you can kind of like educate others and use your platform for good rather than just word bath, but go like, hey, I'm not sure if you know this, and then slowly like teach people in a way what could be helpful.
Yeah. William, you've spoken about having to learn and be in that space of wanting to broaden your understanding of country and of land. What is that experience? What was that experience like for you, and for people who are maybe just a bit nervous about broadening their horizons and understanding?
Well, for me, you know, I mean, I've always, since I was a kid, I always had a wonderful connection with country, but I didn't really understand any of it. And you know, I'm a white fella, and my people come here as convicts in the early 1800s, and so we've, you know, but a lot of Bushmen in my family too, you know. But it wasn't until probably my late teens, early 20s that I started to get involved with the Indigenous mob and get to learn a bit and go out bush and really discover that connection in this land and be able to, you know, to recognize the plants and realize there's medicine and there's food and there's a whole thing here that we can all connect to, and that realization and that knowing that when you have that respect and that openness and you let mother sort of take you in her arms, and then you will be guided. The path will reveal itself to you. It might not always be what you think is you know, it might not always be easy, but it's something that once you're committed to it, then there'll be a way to it. And what I mean when I say that is that, you know, it's time for strength. It's time for us to use the ways that we can in order to stand up to these corporations. People have been doing, you know, go back years, you know, people stopped the Franklin River from being dammed. You know, that there are things that have happened where success has happened because of determination and truth. And I think that truth and determination is on our side. And I think the only thing that stands in the way is the disinformation and the planned polarization of this country. And we have to make sure that in our activism, that we might be very bloody angry with what's going on. We might be very angry that the great artesian basin's been depressurized, or that the soil over here is being poisoned. But the fella or the woman doing it, they still have a family. They still have to pay their bills. They're still living in the system where they have that responsibility, or at least what they've grown up with has inoculated them to the truth. So it's important to be friendly, be loving, and share the conversation. If we can't talk, we can't get anything done. And so I think that each and every one of us who are on the same page, speaking to people who are of a different mindset than us and inviting them into the conversation, even though it might be uncomfortable, and even though we might even get abused verbally for it, or whatever, thrown up, locked up, whatever. But to be truthful, to be determined, and to be loving, to be connected to country, and to listen to the Indigenous mob is the way forward. And also science. We have this wonderful thing, science, that we have the technology, we can survive, we can turn on our lights, we can do those things. So the merging of our greatest technology and the Indigenous mindset of looking after country and being symbiotic with mother, that's the way forward. I see that, and I see people, the youth, coming on board to that idea, and the old fellas and the old aunties sitting back saying, well, it's about time. But I think that I'm feeling positive about it all.
Yeah. I do not say this lightly. This has been one of the most powerful conversations I think we've had in this space for Climate Fridays. And again, for anyone tuning in, if you want to support CMOB, go to seedmob.org.au. Send them a love and a like at CMOB on Instagram, because they're doing amazing work. And it's so great to see the first and only Indigenous youth-led environmental organisation kick off at the end of 2020. Millie Telford, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. It's been awesome. Such a good yarn.
Oh my gosh, I've had tingles the entire time. It's been such a powerful talk. And as well as that, Seed Mob have got a few things that you can jump on tonight and be a part of. Not only can you donate, you can provide your signature towards Protect Country, land rights, not mining rights. You can also jump on Don't Frack the NT. It's got information of how you can talk to Origin Energy, as well as donate and provide your signatures towards petitions. So much great work. And so proud of this organisation for being so just unrelentingly strong and continuing the powerful cultures that they hold within themselves. I'd also like to say thank you so much to Amelia Duggan. It is her first time here chatting with us for Climate Fridays, our school striker for climate, bringing so much beautiful energy, as well as great experience and great knowledge for those who want to become an activist, maybe for the first time. And to finish up, William Crichton's going to play us out for Climate Fridays. And I'm going to hush, because it's been such a great conversation and we need some music at this point.
Thanks, Ketchy. Do you want me to play now? Is it now?
Yeah.
All right. This is a song about sort of what we've been talking about too. It's called We Are the Wild. I'd just like to say thank you for having me on here too, and it's been wonderful to hang out with you all. Great is the sin when suffering's caused by the jaws and the claws of the institution. You suffer, I suffer. You bleed, I bleed. These bones are your bones. Throw him in the fire. The king was a liar. Now the joker's waking up in his bed. And he who sees through the eye of emu walks away from the castle of the dead. We are the children, water and dust. We belong to mother, she don't belong to us. Wheel of justice grind slow and fine. Feel your skin, we are the wild. Green grass grows along the river. She knows each strand of your hair, your future drawn down in the rock. and your face carved in the cold night air. Who's got the right to sing the blues? Now you're walking around the prison in a dead man's shoes. Have you ever known a bee not two bars? Every track leads back to water. We are the children, water and dust. We belong to mother, she don't belong to us. Wheel of justice, crime, snow and fine. Feel your skin, we are the wild. Now, mother, oh mother, what's your plan for me? I heard you calling through the pictury. I was standing in the checkout line when I saw you, my spirit revived. So much believed was wrong. Listen to the truth in a lyrebird song. We are the children, water and dust. We belong to mother, she don't belong to us. Wheel of justice, grind slow and fine. Feel your skin, we are the wild. We are the wild.
Thank you so much, William Crichton. It's been such a pleasure having you join us this week for Climate Fridays.
Thank you for having me, Ketchy, and it's great to see you, and it's great to see everybody tuned in too.
It's so fantastic. And thanks to everyone that tuned in. If you want to jump on seedmob.org.au, help get this organisation to the forefront of the environmental conversation. They are the first and only Indigenous youth-led environmental organisation, and they do so much and they provide so many resources for us all in the fight to save this country. We've also got greenmusic.org.au, which is for us, find out what's happening around the music scene, and we've got some really great initiatives happening there, including a declaration by the music industry to oh, I disappeared. There we go. I'm back. Technology. But there's declaration for people in the music industry, which you should jump on, as well as the small things that you can do, like not using plastic bottles and reusing your bottles and everything like that. Sorry, I'm a bit brain fuzzed. It's been such a strong conversation this week. And remember, we are back next week. It is our last week for this year, taking out 2020 with a big show. Ketchy Nell is my name. This is Climate Fridays. And yeah, stay safe and we'll see you next week.